Hi everybody, welcome back to Moonlight Mysteries. I'm your host, Jackie Mage, and today I have part 2 of famous alien abduction stories from some people who've claimed to be abducted by extraterrestrials. My audio quality should be a bit better on this one, so grab your favorite snack, sit back, relax, while we once again dive into all things mysterious, paranormal, fantastical, supernatural, and otherworldly. Enjoy! Our first story is the Whitley Stiber abduction. On the night of December 26, 1985, Stiber was staying at his isolated cabin in upstate New York with his wife Anne and their son. He went to bed at around 11 p.m., but was awakened by a strange noise at approximately 3 in the morning. Initially thinking it might be a burglar, he got up to investigate. Stiber described hearing a loud, distinct sound like a whooshing or whirring. He suddenly was paralyzed and floated out of his bed. He recalled being transported through the house and outside, ultimately finding himself in a small, round, and dimly lit room. In this room, he encountered several beings. He described these beings as varied in appearance. The most prominent were the Greys, with large, black, almond-shaped eyes, thin bodies, and small limbs. He also saw beings that were short, stocky, and had wrinkled, bluish-gray skin, as well as tall, slender beings with cat-like eyes. Stiber's accounts of the beings often varied, suggesting a complex and diverse group of entities. Stiber described a series of bizarre and frightening medical procedures performed on him. He was subjected to a thorough examination, which included the insertion of a long needle into his brain via his nasal passage, a procedure which he found extremely painful. He also recalled other invasive procedures and tests that left him feeling violated and terrified. After the initial abduction, Stiber began experiencing a series of subsequent encounters with these beings. These experiences varied widely, from further abductions and medical examinations to more abstract, psychological, and spiritual encounters. He often experienced a deep sense of dread and terror, but also moments of curiosity and wonder. To better understand his experiences, Stiber underwent regressive hypnosis sessions with Dr. Donald F. Klein, a well-respected psychiatrist. Under hypnosis, Stiber recalled additional details of his encounters, including more vivid descriptions of the beings and the procedures they performed. These sessions helped him piece together fragmented memories and provided a clear picture of his experiences. In 1987, Stiber published the book Communion, which detailed his abduction experiences and his struggle to come to terms with them. The book included illustrations by artist Ted Seth Jacobs, which became iconic representations of the beings Stiber encountered. The book became a bestseller and brought the concept of alien abduction into the mainstream consciousness. Stiber's account revealed a mixed reaction. Many readers were fascinated by his detailed and articulate narrative, and the book generated significant interest in UFOs and abductions. However, it also faced considerable skepticism and criticism. Skeptics argue that Stiber's experiences could be explained by sleep paralysis, hallucinations, or psychological factors. Some critics suggested that his experiences might be fabrications or exaggerated for the sake of selling books. Despite the controversy, Stiber's willingness to discuss his experiences openly and his efforts to explore them in the context of his life and consciousness lent credibility to his account for many readers. In the years following the publication of Communion, Stiber continued to report encounters with the beings. He documented these experiences in subsequent books, including Transformation in 1988, Breakthrough in 1995, and The Secret School in 1996. These books explored not only his encounters, but also the broader implications of contact with extraterrestrial beings, including questions about the nature of reality, consciousness, and the human soul. Stiber also sought to engage with the scientific and UFO research communities, advocating for a serious and open-minded investigation of the abduction phenomenon. He participated in numerous interviews, lectures, and conferences, becoming a prominent figure in the field of ufology. Whitley Stiber's abduction story remains one of the most detailed and influential accounts in the history of UFO research. His books have sold millions of copies worldwide and have been translated into multiple languages. Communion was adapted into a film in 1989, starring Christopher Walken as Stiber. Stiber's work has inspired many other abductees to come forward with their own experiences and has contributed to a broader public awareness of the abduction phenomena. His willingness to explore and discuss the psychological, spiritual, and philosophical aspects of his experiences has also added depth and complexity to the conversation about extraterrestrial contact. While skepticism remains, Stiber's detailed and introspective accounts continue to be a significant part of the UFO and abduction literature, challenging readers to consider the possibility that human consciousness and reality may be far more complex and mysterious than previously understood. The Linda Cortile abduction story. In the early hours of November 30th, 1989, Linda Cortile, then in her late 30s, was reportedly abducted from her high-rise apartment in Lower Manhattan. According to her account, she was taken by 3 small, gray-skinned beings with large heads and large black eyes. Linda described being floated out of her bedroom window, which was situated on the 12th floor of her apartment building. She was levitated in a beam of light accompanied by the 3 beings and transported into a hovering UFO. The craft was described as a classic disc-shaped object with bright lights. Inside the UFO, Linda recounted undergoing a series of medical examinations. She was placed on a table and various instruments were used to examine her. She experienced a sense of paralysis and helplessness, but did not report any physical pain. The beings communicated with her telepathically, conveying a sense of detachment and clinical interest in their procedures. What sets the Linda Cortile abduction apart from many other UFO abduction cases is the presence of multiple independent witnesses. 2 security guards, known as Richard and Dan, were reportedly on duty near the Brooklyn Bridge at the time of the incident. They claimed to have seen Linda being floated out of her apartment window into the UFO. The case took an even more intriguing turn when it was revealed that Dan was a high-ranking United Nations official. According to Hopkins, Dan and Richard were driving near the Brooklyn Bridge when their car stalled, and they witnessed the abduction unfold. Both men later provided detailed statements to Hopkins about what they'd seen. Hopkins, a well-known ufologist and author, investigated Linda's case extensively. He conducted numerous interviews with Linda and the witnesses and published his findings in his book titled Witnessed: The True Story of the Brooklyn Bridge UFO Abductions in 1996. Hopkins used regressive hypnosis to help Linda recover more detailed memories of her abduction experiences. Through the hypnosis sessions, Linda recounted additional details of the abduction, including the appearance of the interior of the UFO and the nature of the examinations. She also recalled seeing other abductees, including children aboard the craft. Linda Cortile's abduction had a profound impact on her life. She experienced a range of emotional and psychological effects, including anxiety, fear, and a sense of isolation. Despite these changes, she became an active participant in the UFO research community, sharing her story at conferences and in interviews. The case also had significant impact on the witnesses Dan and Richard. Both experienced emotional and psychological distress following the incident. Dan reportedly suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder and had difficulty reconciling his experience with his professional responsibilities. As with many UFO abduction cases, the Linda Cortile abduction has faced significant skepticism. Critics have questioned the credibility of the witnesses and the validity of the hypnosis sessions used to recover her memories. Some have suggested that the case could be a hoax or a product of false memories induced by hypnosis. Skeptics also point to the inconsistencies in the accounts provided by Linda and the witnesses. For example, there are questions about the timeline of the events and the exact nature of the examinations conducted aboard the UFO. Additionally, some have criticized Hopkins' investigation methods, arguing that he may have influenced the testimonies through leading questions and suggestions. Despite the controversy, the Linda Cortile abduction remains one of the most intriguing and well-documented UFO abduction cases. The involvement of multiple witnesses, including a high-ranking UN official, and the detailed investigation conducted by Bud Hopkins have contributed to its lasting impact on the field of ufology. Linda Cortile's story continues to be a subject of interest and debate among UFO researchers and enthusiasts. Her case has been featured in numerous books, documentaries, and television programs, further cementing its place in UFO lore. While skepticism persists, the Linda Cortile abduction serves as a compelling example of the complexities and challenges associated with investigating and understanding the UFO abduction phenomenon. The Andreas Sin Affair. On the evening of January 26, 1967, Betty Andreasen was at home in South Ashburnham, Massachusetts, with her 7 children, her mother, and her father. Around 7 p.m., the house experienced a power outage. A strange, reddish-orange light filled the kitchen. Betty's father looked out the window and saw several small humanoid beings approaching the house in a hopping motion. Betty described the beings as about 4 feet tall, with large heads and large almond-shaped eyes. They had grayish skin and wore blue, tight-fitting uniforms with a belt. The beings communicated telepathically and reassured Betty and her family that they would not be harmed. The beings entered the house through the kitchen door, which they seemed to pass through as if it were not there. They put Betty and her family into a state of suspended animation, except for Betty. Betty was floated out of the house and into a craft hovering nearby. She described the interior of the craft as brightly lit and spacious. The beings conducted a series of medical examinations on her. They placed her in a chair and scanned her with a beam of light, which she described as a brain scan. Betty recalled being taken on a journey aboard the spacecraft. She was shown various scenes and landscapes, some of which seemed otherworldly. She described seeing a city of light and other unusual visions. The beings communicated with her, imparting a sense of spiritual enlightenment and emphasizing the importance of love and harmony. After the examination and the journey, Betty was returned to her home. The entire experience seemed to have taken several hours, but when she was returned, only a few minutes had passed. Her family remained unaware of the passage of time, still in the state of suspended animation. Betty experienced a range of emotional and psychological effects following the abduction. She had recurring dreams and flashbacks of the event and began to exhibit heightened spiritual awareness and psychic abilities. She struggled to reconcile her deeply religious beliefs with the experiences she had undergone. In the late 1970s, Betty decided to seek help to understand her experiences. She contacted Raymond E. Fowler, a prominent ufologist and investigator. Fowler conducted a thorough investigation, including multiple hypnosis sessions with Betty, to recover more detailed memories of her encounters. Betty provided consistent and detailed accounts of her abductions under hypnosis. She described additional encounters with the beings and further elaborated on the spiritual and physiological messages they conveyed to her. Fowler documented these sessions meticulously, emphasizing the emotional intensity and sincerity of Betty's recollections. Fowler published the findings of his investigation in a series of books, starting with the Andreas Sin Affair in 1979. The book detailed Betty's experiences and the extensive investigation process. It received widespread attention and brought Betty's story to a broad audience. As with many UFO abduction cases, the Andreas Sin Affair faced skepticism and criticism. Critics question the reliability of hypnosis as a tool for recovering memories, suggesting that the recollections could be influenced by suggestion or confabulation. Some skeptics argue that Betty's deeply religious background and the spiritual aspects of her encounters might reflect psychological or symbolic interpretations rather than literal events. Despite these criticisms, Betty's detailed and consistent accounts, combined with Fowler's thorough documentation, have made the Andreas Sin Affair a compelling case in the study of UFO abductions. The Andreas Sin Affair remains one of the most influential and widely discussed UFO abduction cases today. Betty's continued to share her story and engage with the UFO research community. Her case has been featured in numerous books, documentaries, and television programs, making it a cornerstone of UFO literature. The Andreas Sin Affair challenges researchers and enthusiasts to consider the complex and often mysterious nature of UFO abductions and their impact on individuals and society. The Lon Zamora Incident. On the evening of April 24, 1964, Lon Zamora was on patrol in Socorro, New Mexico, when he heard a loud roar and saw a flame in the sky. Initially thinking it might be an explosion or a car accident, he drove toward the source of the disturbance. Zamora drove towards the area where he saw the flame, a gravel road leading to a perlite mine. As he approached, he observed a shiny, oval-shaped object on the ground, approximately 150 to 200 yards away. The object was metallic and had landing legs extended. Nearby, Zamora noticed two small figures in white coveralls standing next to the object. They appeared to be around 4 to 5 feet tall. As he approached, Zamora heard a loud roaring sound and saw a blue flame coming from beneath the object. The object then began to rise slowly into the air. Terrified, Zamora retreated behind his patrol car for cover. The object descended rapidly, emitting a loud roar and a blue flame. It flew away in a straight line at a high speed, disappearing over the horizon. Zamora noted that the craft had no visible windows or doors and bore a red insignia resembling an inverted V with 3 lines running through it. The incident was quickly investigated by local authorities, including the New Mexico State Police and the FBI, as well as the U.S. Air Force, which was conducting its Project Blue Book investigation into UFOs. Investigators found several pieces of physical evidence at the site, including burned vegetation, indentations in the ground where the object had landed, and footprints. Soil samples taken from the site showed evidence of unusual chemical reactions, which some believed were caused by the intense heat from the object's propulsion system. Several other witnesses came forward to report seeing a similar object in the sky around the same time as Zamora's sighting. These testimonies, along with Zamora's consistent and detailed account, added credibility to the case. Project Blue Book and other investigations were unable to provide a definitive explanation for the sighting. The case was officially classified as unidentified, meaning it could not be explained by conventional aircraft, weather phenomenon, or other known objects. Some skeptics suggested that the incident might have been a hoax or a misinterpretation of a conventional aircraft or balloon. However, these explanations failed to account for the physical evidence and the reliability of Zamora as a witness. Additionally, no experimental or military aircraft matching the description of the object was known to be in the area at the time. The Lon Zamora Incident remains one of the most credible and well-documented UFO sightings. It has been extensively studied and cited in UFO literature and continues to be a point of interest for research and enthusiasts. Lon Zamora, known for his integrity and reliability, continued to serve as a police officer until his retirement. He consistently stood by his account of the incident until his death in 2009. Zamora's reputation and the thorough investigation into the incident have contributed to its enduring credibility. The incident has been featured in numerous books, documentaries, and television programs. It is often cited as one of the best examples of a UFO sighting with credible witnesses and physical evidence. The Lon Zamora Incident challenges researchers and skeptics alike to consider the possibility of unexplained phenomena and remains a key case in the study of UFOs and extraterrestrial encounters. Thank you all for joining me tonight for part 2 of Alien Abductions. Moonlight Mysteries is always posting new videos and stories about unexplained phenomena. If you have any personal experiences you would like to share, please leave them down in the comment sections below or go ahead and shoot me an email. I usually post videos twice a week where we discuss all things mysterious, paranormal, fantastical, supernatural, otherworldly, and more. Bye!